This content is brought to you by Algorand, which is building the future of finance. Algorand is one of the leading projects in the crypto industry. It is getting significant adoption and investments. This content is also brought to you by TaxBit, which is the leading tax service provider in the crypto industry. I'm personally a TaxBit user. It makes it so easy to plug in my exchange accounts and calculate my crypto gains and losses. So if you'd like to learn more about Algorand and TaxBit, please visit the links in the description of the podcast and YouTube video. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto channel, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Josh Neuroth, who's the head of product at Ankr. Josh, great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tony.
Josh, let's start with your background. Where are you from and where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm from the great state of Michigan, grew up in a very rural area on a farm, did not have internet access. And, for me, the when dial-up internet came out, that became my link to the outside world. And so I got really into the web, really into the internet, and just learned everything I could about the web in its early days. So it's a lot of fun, but, very proud of that Midwestern heritage as well.
And before working at Ankr, what did you do and where did you work before?
Yeah, so most recently I was on the product leadership team at a company called Sixtera Technologies, which is now public on the NASDAQ. It's an infrastructure as a service company, provides data center and network services to some of the world's largest institutions and enterprises. And I've spent the last 7 years in a variety of infrastructure as a service roles, but all the time working on building software products, product management. Early in my career, I started out in front end engineering and then transitioned eventually over into product management. So my entire career has been in tech now, love it. And now I'm based out of the Bay Area.
And how did you first come across Bitcoin and crypto, and what was your aha moment?
Oh, man. I was working. The aha moment for me didn't come until recently, but my first exposure to Bitcoin was when my friend Matt, who was a coworker of mine back in 2010 and late 2009, was mining Bitcoin on his gaming PC. And he was all excited because it had just hit $1. And he was making all this Bitcoin, buying up new gaming rigs, and told me to buy it. He's like, put $100 in. I never did, of course. And then kind of, would see Bitcoin kind of pop up on Hacker News over the years, 2012, 2013, 2014. But then in 2017, summer 2017, as you know, the market started climbing, had some other friends had gotten into mining at that point. And I really started paying attention, had a client, which was Ripple at the time, who was doing a lot of infrastructure work. And then, watched the market really climb in late 2017. And I started kind of realizing that was the next phase of the, internet. Like as we know, every 4 or 5 years, like Silicon Valley and the greater tech ecosystem goes through kind of like these cohorts, Okay. And so, you can trace it back to the social networks, and then the smartphone, that technology unlocks like all the ride sharing and DoorDash and Uber, right, and Airbnb. And now we have this new technology that's unlocking this like next generation of economy, right, with all these crypto companies. And so I started getting more involved in the ecosystem at that point, but really didn't jump in full time into last year, so early 2021.
You mentioned you were doing some work with Ripple at that point. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, if anyone that's doing anything with lots of data or processing needs access to a large amount of server resources, right? Like we've always known this about the web. If you're building anything, you need access to infrastructure. And so I was working on a project and we were helping Ripple kind of build out their data center and architect that. But, not everyone hosts in the cloud and just pushes the deploy button. A lot of people still build their own data centers.
So I have to ask all my guests, what do you hold in your crypto portfolio?
I hold a lot of different assets, a lot of emerging assets. I think two recent favorites are Near Protocol and Phantom.
Hmm.
So Phantom, I'm a big believer in those. But in my day job now, I work with all the major protocols. So I get to meet the teams and see what everyone's working on and their traction they're getting, which is really interesting. But very excited about Near Protocol, and I think it's recently been recognized in the market valuation a little bit more. But they've been doing a lot of great work.
Yeah, I've also, I was just talking to someone earlier today. I've been exploring Near Protocol as well. And, I was actually surprised that Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, that they are a backer of Near. So I don't know. I'll talk to you offline about it.
Yeah. But I was at the Phantom Developer Conference back in Abu Dhabi in October, and that community they have such a strong developer ecosystem as well. So one of the cool things I get to do at Ankr is we are working with a lot of projects that are integrating these protocols. And so I get to see kind of our internal statistics about who's building on what, and, the real developer traction story. And Phantom has an insanely good developer ecosystem that, they're doing, I would say they have a stronger developer ecosystem than even Solana does. So, but there's a big gap between both those protocols and their market valuation still.
So on that note, tell us about Ankr. And for those who may not know, if you can just give us the full rundown, history,
yeah,
what's the vision, what's the use cases, and things like that.
Yeah, awesome. So Ankr's Web3 infrastructure and DeFi solutions, about 4-year-old protocol at this stage. Early on, companies kind of I heard someone call us an OG crypto company, which is true because we're like half the age of Ethereum, But early on, we started with a business around hosting nodes. So if you don't know, a blockchain is really made up of nodes. And there's 2 different types of nodes. There's developer nodes. There's also validators that create the next block on the blockchain. And so we built kind of this centralized node deployment solution. So a lot of the community was wanting to run nodes, but they didn't have maybe the technical expertise or the Linux experience to launch a node. And we built a very simple tool. It was like a one-click node hosting or a node deployment tool. And so we've had thousands of nodes deployed on our platform. And since then, we've evolved the platform significantly, building a decentralized protocol that powers a lot of developer tools like, market analytics apps like DeFi Pulse is one of our customers. We have some of the wallet apps are using us to integrate with some of the dexes like Spirit Swap, Spooky Swap on Phantom, and then from there. And then we also have a staking solution where you can delegate your crypto to us and earn passively in the network by, locking up your crypto.
So would it be fair to make this comparison that you're kind of like the Amazon web server for nodes, validators, and nodes?
Well, I'd say decentralized web services. So there's a couple things here. So, we kind of joke about this. Some of our competitors talk about being the AWS of crypto. And I think who's going to become the AWS of crypto? It's literally going to be AWS. Like eventually when the market gets mature enough, Amazon, and they're already doing a little bit of this, is just going to enter the market and have a lot of these like infrastructure solutions available at AWS. So, but I think what's important is, the staking solutions, the integration of all that. And I would say the future of Ankr is really around like becoming multi-chain middleware. And so, a lot of people right now are kind of speculating on like who's the ETH killer or who's going to be like a protocol that really rises for some niche that developers need. And I see protocols like us where we can kind of bridge the gap between a lot of these siloed layer 1 chains and layer 2 chains. So, we've seen this before in Web 2 where, when you have a roadmap on one company and then the second company has a roadmap and they're trying to integrate and they just need like a neutral middle company that makes the adapter that works everything together. And that's effectively what we're doing with some of the staking solutions and some of the bridges that we're working on right now. So I think I'm very excited about kind of that future.
Yeah, for sure. And, you mentioned the bridges. Certainly interoperability is going to be important between many of the different blockchains. So it sounds like that is an initiative you guys are working on to build interoperability between different blockchains and
Mhm.
in addition to the validator node service.
Exactly. It's like when we run, we've integrated 50 different chains. We're probably focused on 15 to 17 right now, in that kind of range of the, the name brands we probably all recognize, top 50 coin market cap kind of protocols. But, long term, I think there's definitely like, well, one of the things we've seen is developers are no longer just building on, just like Ethereum or just Solana. Everyone's going multi-chain, and they need solutions like ours to help them do that, right? And so, one of the things right now is that crypto assets are often moved with a GUI, with a user interface, people confirming transactions in a wallet, even on the institutional layer. And one of the things we're working on is doing that all through our API solution. So moving crypto assets, multi-chain through code. So, that's kind of the natural evolution of how this is going to go. And then people just plug into our decentralized API and start, providing liquidity cross-chain and doing all these things, uploading smart contracts to all these different chains at the same time. So yeah, very exciting.
Would you be able to disclose which respective blockchains or projects are utilizing you for nodes?
Yeah, so we are a partner of the protocols. So we, working with Ethereum, working with Solana, Phantom, Polygon. We're probably the largest infrastructure as a service provider now for Polygon and Phantom, and Binance Smart Chain as well. And then on the customer side, projects that are building their NFT marketplaces, their wallet apps, their D apps, maybe it's a metaverse game, are integrating and essentially as a customer to our infrastructure. So, one of the cool things about Ankr is we do have like substantial cash flow from all this, and we're, a sustainable business model in that sense.
Tell us a bit about that. Without going too much into the finances, but rather maybe your fee structure. Like if I don't know, the folks at Solana came to you and they're like, "Hey, we want to work with you." What would be the costs around that?
Yeah, so sometimes the protocols themselves, will give us a grant to kind of start off with, but it's really the end. It's really the projects that are making money that are our customers, not the protocols. We're a partner of the protocols, right? So, like if you think about it, if you're a decentralized exchange, every use case in crypto, DeFi, Metaverse requires access to nodes, right? Like Coinbase, for example, or Binance, they run thousands of nodes to support, their infrastructure. And so you have to really hire an engineering team. Developers don't really love to run servers, right? And that provides an opportunity for us to do that. But the issue, I think, in the space right now is that the blockchain itself is decentralized. Like take the Ethereum network. Anyone can run an Ethereum node. Anyone can validate transactions. You have this decentralized system. But then when you have like a service provider like Ankr or some of our competitors like Alchemy or Infura, we're effectively like centralizing that again, because we're building these like single point of failure, to our customers. And so a big part of what we've been working on, we kind of started with a centralized solution, centralized API for developers. And now we're effectively decentralizing that. We're getting community members to run nodes on our behalf, contribute that compute power into the protocol. And then we can build like this high performance supercomputer, with the community as a partner.
Very cool. I certainly like that this option is out in the market, and for the future of interoperability and maintaining a lot of the decentralization. Tell us a bit about the tokenomics of the Ankr token, and you mentioned proof of stake as well earlier.
Yeah, so one of the things right now, like I said, we started off with a very centralized like Web2 business model, subscription as a service, almost like software as a service. And then right now we're moving into where Ankr protocol, like projects pay us through the Ankr token effectively. So, they're using the Ankr token to become a customer of Ankr protocol, and then we pay out the Ankr token to our node providers, right? And so I think a couple interesting things around this, like, there's definitely the Ankr token itself is not inflationary. We don't have, an auto expanding token. We have fixed supply at 10 billion, same as Polygon and several other networks out there. And then, ultimately the token utility grows as the space grows. So in the last year, we've seen since March 2021, we've seen a 15x traffic on our servers, right? And so, increasingly as we kind of make customers use the Ankr token, that's going to create a lot more token utility. So, it's pretty simple at the end of the day. We have some big plans for this year to do some other things with our token. But yeah, that's kind of where we started. I'd say we've been pretty conservative on our tokenomics. We've watched a lot of projects and other protocols really not do well on their tokenomics, and tried to learn from those. And I think there's kind of one of the interesting things about tokenomics when you use your token in your product like we do is if it's better, you can't ultimately you want your customers and your users to use your product. But if the token is at the center of that, you don't want to make your token so valuable that it's better just to hold your token than to use the product.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of other protocols struggle from that, where, it's frankly I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there's some top 15, top 20, tokens out there where, the community is just holding it and speculating, and it's like no one's actually using the product because it's better to do that. So so there's a couple ways we can get around that. We've looked at helping effectively stake the token for discounts for product features where you just hold the token, and almost like an Amazon Prime membership. You get exclusive benefits through doing that too.
For sure. I read that you guys were the first to sponsor an NBA team, and we see a lot of mass marketing happening now within the crypto industry. Can you tell us about the sponsorship and which team?
Yeah, so we rolled out our partnership with the Sacramento Kings, which is for maybe the listeners that don't know, Sacramento is a city. It's the capital of California. It's about an hour and a half drive from San Francisco, large city. We specifically wanted to work with the Sacramento Kings because of how tech forward they are. Their owner is a huge crypto fan. Their stadium is one of the most modern. The Golden Center one in Sacramento is one of the most modern, technologically advanced stadiums there is. They have a data center in there, literally in the stadium. They're going to be running an Ethereum node there. They already have a Bitcoin miner kind of plugged in, and they were committed to helping us, really reach out to their fan base and teach them about Web3 and get them onboarded to the Web3 community. And so for all those reasons, we felt like it was the right fit. And we just happened to be the first kind of company that got our press release out first. I think we were like 3 or 4 days before Coinbase. But yeah, it's been a great partnership so far. And I've been to several home games, and, our logo's on the court. It's broadcast nationally whenever there's games at Golden Center 1.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a bit about who are some of your investors who are invested in Ankr? I don't know if you can list all of them, but any specific call-outs?
Yeah, well, one thing we've tried to do at the moment, we don't have any VCs invested. So we are as kind of a self-funded crypto native startup. That's not to say it won't change in the future, but we've kind of been able to self-fund. So it's great.
I have to say that's refreshing to hear, because you don't often hear that.
Yeah, I think there's a blessing and a curse, because so it's like you get credibility when you have, I'd say, VCs and institutional investors coming in, and we definitely need that. I'd say maybe in the future we'll look at that for that reason, but we're in a position where we don't really have to raise, so it's the best place to be, and makes it a lot really, really fun.
Yeah, and I just thought, as you're saying that about Jack Dorsey's and Mark Andreessen's, debate on Twitter, if you want to call it a debate, about VCs and Web3 and so forth. Do you have any thoughts on that situation?
Sure, of course I do. So, it's I'd say it's complicated because you have so many people in the community, your retail, we'll call them quote unquote, investors, right? And of course, from the SEC's point of view, they're not investors. They're speculating on these assets. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want to get too much into that, but I will say, I think what's exciting, regardless of who's investing in what, is that so many people that have maybe wouldn't even consider themselves investors are getting involved in these projects, right? They're joining the community, they're joining the DAO, they're voting on things. I think that is a very significant cultural shift, as we know, that we've seen, right? And so that's a really good thing. And I think, I personally know many, many people who essentially went from middle class or even poverty to becoming very wealthy through crypto, which is awesome. So, the VCs definitely help with getting the mass adoption. I think we've seen, platforms like Coinbase and OpenSea have really helped with some of the adoptions. And then what I love specifically, you mentioned like Andreessen Horowitz, is like they're definitely out there on the street. They're working on some of the government. They have an opinion and a standpoint of influence, and that's very important for the regulatory conversation right now. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of value that the VC community brings to the table. What I will say though is I definitely have seen, just like we've always seen, is there's also predatory, fundraisers and things like that. And I don't think every retail investor understands what's really happening out there. So that's the negative side. So it's trade-offs, but ultimately, I think what we're seeing is the VCs are helping us with mass adoption.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. And look, they did it with the internet. Obviously, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz at Netscape, and they went ahead and I'm not singling them out specifically, but they helped invested in Coinbase and all these other Web2 tech companies. And that helped those companies to grow and get adoption and have the technology that we have today. So I think it's certainly beneficial.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so what's on the roadmap for 2022 for Ankr?
Oh man, we have a lot. So one of our products that's in beta right now is called Ankr Scan. We've built essentially Etherscan for multi-chain, the data behind that, and I was talking a little bit about like the multi-chain interoperability is going to be really key. Right now, it's a product that's just in beta. You can see at anchorscan.io. We have a very aggressive roadmap around that. We're launching Ankr Academy soon, which is not public, yet, but that's going to have some really interesting things we're doing with NFTs and learning and earning through basically being onboarded to Web3. We have some new chains we're adding to liquid staking. So I can tell you a little bit about liquid staking. Liquid staking, so effectively, when you stake an asset like, say, Ethereum or Phantom or BNB, you're going to get passive return. What we do with liquid staking is we give you a voucher that represents your initial deposit. You can go and add that to a liquidity pool. And then effectively, it's kind of like super staking where you can maximize your earnings, with this liquid staking token. So that's exciting. We're adding more to that. And then working on our developer tools. We're working with now hundreds, if not thousands of projects. So, helping them get better at executing their infrastructure. So we got a lot coming and there's some more surprises, down the road, but we definitely see ourselves increasingly as, that like almost like a layer zero solution in the space that's helping connect these networks together.
Oh, that's awesome. Exciting updates coming up. Let's talk about the crypto market at large. I want to get your thoughts on how things have grown significantly. Obviously, we're in a bit of a correction right now with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But overall, things are moving ahead with adoption. A lot of mining of Bitcoin happening in the United States now, corporates putting in their balance sheet, El Salvador, so on and so forth. What are your thoughts on the growth we've seen?
Yeah. I mean, what's fascinating is prior to me working full time in the Web3 space, when the market dips like this, it's like everyone's kind of, losing their interest or losing their mind, right? But all the projects in the space, all the companies in the space are just heads down building like crazy. And when the market, like our team doesn't even usually look at the market, like we don't, it doesn't really change our roadmap or our day-to-day operations. And so I will say that one of the interesting things that I think happened in 2021 is the crypto market stopped really becoming a Ponzi scheme. So for a long time, it was dependent on new investors coming in. And now projects have cash flow. There's like a self-sustaining economy. And so, projects like Ankr hold a lot of stable coin in our treasuries, right? And can buy the dip. And, I know lots of the protocols are also investing in the space too now. So there's a little bit, I feel like the crypto market is much more self-sustaining than before, and we'll see the volatility is still going to be there, but we're going to see these dips kind of not be as high and as low as they have been in the past, and we'll see much more of a traditional kind of rhythm to the market in the future.
Got it. Yeah, and we're also seeing a lot of companies talking about they want to be involved in the metaverse. A lot of folks launching NFTs. Which is exciting, but it's yet to see what's going to come of this. What are your thoughts on these big brands like Nike and Disney? They're now jumping in, saying they want to build their own metaverse and things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the metaverse is something that. What is the metaverse? I mean, I think I don't know if you remember that game in the early 2000s, like Second Life. Like to me, that was like the first metaverse game. And, Mark Zuckerberg is kind of, I guess, Facebook Meta has this 3D world they're trying to build now. But to me, the metaverse represents something that has been happening for a long time, where our digital identity is maybe even more important than our in-person or our physical identity. Mm-hmm. And increasingly, there's people are buying up digital assets, digital land in games or items or NFTs, right? And can publicly show that. And so to me, the metaverse is more of a cultural thing than just like a game or a single application. It's a movement, just like we started. I think Web 2 brought us, the social movement where we started posting our thoughts, our food pictures online, right? And so the metaverse is just the next evolution of that. We've already seen online identity become very important. Like you probably could say for yourself that your YouTube channel has done a lot for your career, or if you're an Instagram influencer, you're probably making more, doing sponsored posts than working a day job. And so there's been this long trend of our digital identities have become very important to us, right? And I think that is just what the metaverse that becomes, right? Where your online identity is very important.
Yeah, for sure. I think you articulated it very well. It is just the evolution of what's already happening. And if you want to call this Metaverse 1.0, and now we're maybe heading to 2.0, where we have our maybe full digital representation of our embodiment. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So I think, hype wise, there's definitely, it's kind of at the metaverse is now like the new cloud in a way, but it's like you said, it's been happening for a long time. And I think this year we're going to see a lot of movement in the gaming space for NFTs. It's very, very much a natural evolution of think about the the skins or the items you're buying in Fortnite or Call of Duty, being able to sell those for real money. You're playing and you're earning these items and you can sell them to someone else. And play to earn is going to be really interesting. Social tokens, social access tokens are going to be really interesting as well. So I always like to say that I feel like Web3 is like, at the end of the day, it is a new technology, but it's actually a way to mass coordinate large groups of people in a way that's fair for them. And so we haven't really had that like tool set to do that in the web before. So that's what's exciting for me in this space.
For sure. Now, with all these exciting things happening and all the building and all the great ideas on the table, there still seems to be some level of roadblocks in the United States as it relates to clarity from the SEC and other government regulators. The SEC has denied some Bitcoin spot ETFs. They're suing Ripple over XRP. I think they're going after Terra Luna as well. But we see Congress, there's more members joining forces to come together to fight for clear regulations for the market. What are your thoughts on the state of US crypto regulations?
Yeah, well, certainly I think everyone would breathe a sigh of relief if we had, some kind of like regulation that we could just have and, go build from. But I think what's interesting is, like, at the end of the day, America kind of adopts ideas very slowly, but then it happens very quickly. And we've seen this with social issues in our country, over and over and over again, where it takes, 5-10 years to really like iron something out. And there's a lot of resistance. And then like 2 years later, it's just the norm. I think something similar is going to happen with crypto, where we're still kind of in that early stage where there's, what's going to happen over here, and we got to work these things out. But I think it's very promising that more and more congressional members are getting in, and, ultimately, like, the money kind of talks. You have large banks getting in, large institutions. I was telling someone recently, we have a lot of RFPs right now as an infrastructure as a service provider for some of the largest financial institutions in the country. Wow. So they have Web3 strategies. They're talking to their lobbyists. They're, trying to figure out how they get into this space. And then we have several upcoming elections where I think this could become one of a smaller issue, not a main issue, but a smaller issue that could influence some of the congressional elections coming up this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing, I think the infrastructure bill situation woke up a lot of members of Congress and folks in DC, which is good. And like you said, look, a lot of people are going to be looking on the ballot, who are these candidates? And while crypto is not going to be number one, it's certainly going to be on the list of things that are important to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to say too, as an American, I absolutely feel like the ethos behind crypto, this open, democratized system, is exactly what the US needs to lead. And it's like we've seen our our reputation struggle from various social issues and, things that have been out there. But who else is going to lead this? China has already kind of axed it out, which should be a good sign for us, right? And Europe is, I can't tell you how many developers and projects I talk to from Europe that have embraced crypto, that believe it's the future too. So it's really a golden opportunity for the United States to remain relevant. And the fact that Web3 is becoming a cultural movement, like one of our biggest exports in the United States is our culture. And so for all these reasons, it's so important for the US to lead this and not stifle it. That being said, I think, we need to have an open framework that allows, projects to build without feeling like they're going to get shut off or turned off. And I just, once you have the people on board, it's really going to be hard to stop this, right? Because eventually it'll make its way into the election.
Yeah, for sure. And as you mentioned, a lot of the traditional financial institutions, the banking sector and so forth are looking to make a presence and enter into the market in the industry. And like you said, money talks, they're going to lobby. So maybe all those things come to a head and we get the clarity we need. Now, on the note of banks, we have central banks around the world building their CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. What do you think about these? I know some of them are going to be using certain blockchains that are out there, or possibly building their own proprietary ones. Do you feel CBDCs will be complementary to the crypto industry and the market?
Yeah, it's a very important thing because we need a better on-ramp between fiat and crypto. So I think from my perspective, we obviously call cryptocurrencies. They're not really cryptocurrencies. The IRS does not consider them a currency unless you're in El Salvador, right, where it's legal tender for Bitcoin. But these digital assets are very much like property. And so, there needs to be, I think that's the right approach for regulation, is to look at kind of the onboard and offboard between fiat into the crypto world, right? And these central bank digital currencies can absolutely help with that by being kind of a backbone to maybe some of the more consumer grade stable coins that are out there, so that if I can convert my, you or just have like a digital version of all my dollars that I can convert to crypto at any point, that would be an amazing step forward, and would also be good for, tax collection in the US, all the other tracking that needs to happen. And so I think the kind of that on-ramp, off-ramp is the most natural place to look from a regulatory perspective, and it makes a lot of sense.
Final question here before we head to the wrap-up questions. I want to get your thoughts on DeFi. 1.0 has had some flaws, hacks, and so forth. What's your outlook on DeFi? And is it, in initial days, the cypherpunks and so forth, the true believers of Bitcoin were the ones who are like, Bitcoin's going to take down the banks, but it doesn't seem that way. It seems like DeFi is going to be the one to do it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, so DeFi is, at the end of the day, I kind of feel like the term DeFi in itself will kind of start going away, and people just see, the Web3 and this next generation of the web as the thing, and DeFi will be the financial system for it, right? But we won't really have a whole separate vertical for DeFi. You'll just use your wallet. Wallet technology is getting better and better with your public-private key pairing, and you're just going to integrate with a lot of these things naturally through like very simple user interfaces, right? And so I kind of see a lot of what we know as DeFi is it's going to get smoothed out and get easier and easier for the everyday person to use and for institutions to use. So that's always going to be the natural evolution of almost every industry, is the UX, CX, the user experience or the customer experience is just going to get better. Interestingly, I think one of the bigger things is like we could talk about is like, what does Bitcoin have to do with this? I think there's completely different sentiment around Bitcoin in January 2022 than there was in January 2021. And I think, there's been a lot of, in my circle, I guess, which is a small sample size, but there's been a lot more excitement around where Ethereum's going as a deflationary asset and being a global supercomputer that has a lot of utility. So we'll see kind of how this all works out. But, I definitely feel like Ethereum could at least get equal to Bitcoin in market cap in the near future.
All right, let's hit some wrap-up questions. If you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be about?
Oh, man. Okay, so I would have to build, I'm a huge, like one of my favorite movies is Tron and Tron Legacy. Yeah. And I would absolutely want to see like a Tron themed metaverse.
Me too. I love Tron. I love sci-fi, Blade Runner and things like that. So I would love to see a Tron metaverse.
Every time I watch, Tron, it just reminds me so much of like the crypto world.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind being able to do like a light bike race with the Oculus and all those things.
Yep. Light bike race, some of the disc wars,
For sure. Okay, some rapid fire questions. Favorite food?
Oh man. I'm gonna have to say coffee. It's not a food, but like I tried this year getting away from coffee for the first week of the year. It was so hard.
It's hard. But
Yeah.
I've been trying to like stop days where I don't drink it and just drink water at first, because
Yeah.
I love coffee, but too much sometimes. Favorite musician or band?
Oh man. I've been a huge One Republic's fan for a long time.
Favorite movie?
Tron.
There you go. I should have put those two together.
Yeah.
Favorite book?
Oh man. I have a lot of favorite books. Probably the most influential book I think that I've read recently is Marty Kagan's book Empowered. He's one of the product leaders here in Silicon Valley, and he has such an accurate view of product management and really like business in general. So have to highly recommend that one. I'm a huge George Orwell fan for fiction as well. But for business books, definitely Marty Kagan's Empowered.
Awesome. I got to check that one out. And when you're not working at Ankr, what are you doing for fun as a hobby?
Man, I'm off hiking here in the Bay Area. Love traveling, takes a lot of photos, and I love building relationships with people. It's been doing a lot of coffee dates with people from Twitter and people in my network lately.
Awesome. Josh, pleasure chatting with you. And I'm looking forward to the updates this year around Ankr. Appreciate you taking the time to join.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Have a good one.